My initial excitement over my boss John's significant promotion quickly gave way to despair. His new position would take him far away to England, separating us. Overwhelmed by emotion, I sought solace in the bathroom, shedding tears like a child. Despite John being my superior, I harbored deep feelings for him, convinced of a mutual affection. Although John and I were both married, our hearts were entwined in a clandestine love affair. My devotion was split between John and my husband, Tom. Falling for John was never my intention, yet circumstances led us into an intimate connection. Collaborating closely on projects, John eventually offered me a role as his administrative assistant. John possessed a magnetic charm and striking appearance that captivated me from the start of our professional relationship. Despite the 10-year age gap, his maturity and allure drew me in. Our bond deepened as we shared personal conversations, delving into topics I wouldn't broach with my spouse, including our intimate lives. In contrast to John's suave demeanor, my husband Tom exuded a different kind of appeal with his rugged looks and unwavering devotion. Though Tom lacked John's polished exterior, he never failed to satisfy me in our marriage bed. The allure of John lay in his divergence from Tom's familiarity. As our professional interactions intensified, John's gestures became increasingly intimate, escalating from prolonged touches to embraces. The palpable sexual tension between us was undeniable, yet I remained steadfast in my commitment to Tom, grappling with conflicting emotions. Accompanying John on business trips only fueled our mutual attraction, with each encounter heightening the temptation. Our first dance together revealed the depth of our connection, as we swayed to the rhythm of desire, torn between restraint and indulgence. Despite John's advances, I resisted the urge to succumb to temptation, mindful of the vows I had taken with Tom. Though tempted by the allure of a nightcap in John's company, I ultimately declined, recognizing the line I dared not cross. A lingering kiss at my door served as a poignant reminder of the forbidden desires that threatened to unravel my marital fidelity. That night, plagued by guilt and desire, I found solace in solitary pleasures, grappling with the moral implications of my infidelity. Despite my yearning for John, my commitment to Tom remained unwavering, a testament to the strength of marital vows amidst the throes of passion. The Monday morning following our trip, I confronted John in his office, adamant about the need for a serious conversation. "John, we have to address our recent trip. While I care deeply for you, we're both married. I refuse to betray my husband or become involved as the other woman to your wife, Gail." John, however, attempted to persuade me otherwise, convinced of the depth of our mutual affection. He interpreted my feelings through his own desires, believing I longed for him as much as he did for me. Despite my admission of desire during our dance, I stood firm, refusing to jeopardize our marriages. With resolve, I left his office, closing the door on any romantic notions. Despite this boundary, our relationship continued in a delicate balance. During subsequent trips, we shared meals and danced, the slow dances serving as intimate moments where desire simmered but never boiled over. Each refusal to join him in his room was met with a tender kiss goodnight, masking the turmoil within. I struggled to conceal my feelings from my husband, Tom, but his suspicions grew. Denying any romantic involvement, I maintained the facade of professional camaraderie. Yet, the tension between John and me did not escape the notice of his wife, Gail, who confronted me during a private moment. Gail's words laid bare the truth of our connection, acknowledging the depth of John's infatuation. Despite my denial of any physical relationship, Gail implored me to refrain from crossing that line, a promise I reluctantly made to preserve the fragile balance. Months passed, and the weight of temptation pressed upon me. Had I not made that promise to Gail, perhaps I would have succumbed to John's advances. Yet, a week after the announcement of John's relocation to England, I found myself summoned to his office, only to be met by Gail, who delivered an ultimatum born of her own resolve. She would not allow me to accompany John, refusing to play second fiddle to his misguided affections. "Gail, I've upheld our agreement. I've rejected his advances every time he's propositioned me. I know you have. I confronted John about his feelings for you. He's confessed his love and his attempts to seduce you. But your resistance seems to have fueled his desire. You've become his forbidden fruit. Do you realize that most of the company thinks you two are involved intimately?" "Oh my God, really?" Yes, Molly, really. You two act like lovesick teenagers. I've told John that if he wants to salvage our marriage, his relationship with you ends when we relocate. I've devised a solution to help you both move on and put an end to this once and for all. I refuse to have your shadow looming over our marriage for years to come. I'll grant you a weekend together. A weekend without constraints. You can do anything you want, even have sex. But in return, you both sign a postnuptial agreement agreeing that after this weekend, there will be no further contact. Violating this agreement means immediate divorce, with all marital assets going to the spouses, myself and your husband. The weekend will be at our lake house, with your husband present. What? Are you out of your mind? Tom would never agree to that, I exclaimed angrily. Right now, he believes you're having an affair. Panic washed over me. Don't act surprised. He asked me outright at the Christmas party while you two were cozy. This way, you can reassure him with the postnuptial agreement that it's over after the weekend, and you both can move on. Let's say I agree. Why involve him? To humiliate him? No, not at all. He's my insurance. It ensures he knows about the agreement, and I trust he'll enforce it. I'll arrange something for him, too, to keep him occupied while you're with John. I don't understand. What do you have for Tom? To put it frankly, a 22-year-old redhead. She's stunning and a professional. A little quid pro quo, if you will. I was stunned. Thoughts raced through my mind. At first, Gail's plan seemed absurd. Tom would never agree to this. But the temptation of being with John was overpowering. Gail was offering me that chance, but the cost was steep. Tom would know I betrayed him, but we'd be on equal footing if I allowed him the same opportunity. I can't believe he'd trade a weekend with a stranger for my betrayal. Honey, she's not exactly a hooker. Think of her more as an entertainer. She's absolutely stunning. Your average guy like your husband wouldn't dream of passing up a weekend with her. If he loves you like I love my husband, he'll understand and agree to this one weekend. It's assurance for him that your affair with John will be over for good. Somehow, Gail's words resonated with me. A weekend with John, then closure. Tom would never have to wonder about my feelings again. Despite the nagging doubts in my mind, fueled by my love or perhaps lust for John, I found myself agreeing to Gail's proposal. We meticulously planned the details during 2 lunch meetings in our conference room. At the second lunch, John and I signed the postnuptial agreements under Gail's watchful eye. A secretary notarized them, though I couldn't help but feel exposed. Yet, the excitement overshadowed any sense of embarrassment. I still hadn't broached the topic with Tom, unsure of how to even begin. Gail advised me to wait until we reached the lake house, another decision that felt like a mistake, but I went along with it. Gail suggested revealing the plan to Tom once we were settled in at the lake house, after he met Jackie, the redhead. She wouldn't be there, claiming she couldn't handle it. I was to give Tom her number if he had any questions, a vast understatement, I was sure. With only a few days' notice, I hoped to minimize Tom's inquiries. He reluctantly agreed, though his suspicions were evident. I brushed off his concerns, insisting it was just a much-needed weekend getaway. Whenever thoughts of the weekend crept in, I clung to Gail's assurances, convinced it would unfold as planned, a weekend with John, then a lifetime making it up to Tom. My resolve wavered when I laid eyes on Jackie. Suddenly, I was the one feeling jealous. She was a perfect 10, if not an 11, with her youth and curves. Gail's prediction rang true. I couldn't fathom any man resisting her. Despite my reservations about Tom being with her, I couldn't back out now. The company's security officer, Larry, took charge of our luggage before assuming the task of entertaining Tom while John and I discussed the weekend ahead. His role extended to ensuring Tom remained calm upon learning about our plans for the lake house. As John and I conversed discreetly, he unexpectedly pulled me into a passionate kiss. We barely parted when Larry's inadvertent entrance interrupted us. Damn it, Larry was supposed to alert us before they entered the room. Luckily, Tom walked in just as John and I were embracing, oblivious to the kiss we shared moments earlier. Sensing Tom's unease, John suggested we retreat to a private area to talk. My stomach churned as I prepared to speak, steeling myself before addressing Tom. I implored him not to interrupt as I confessed my feelings. I admitted my love for both John and him, detailing the arrangement for the weekend as outlined in the postnuptial agreement. The signed document lay in his suitcase for him to peruse at his leisure. Tom pleaded with me to leave with him immediately, but I insisted this was the best course for our future. I offered Gail's number for further clarification. Although Tom accused me of jeopardizing our marriage, his refusal to storm out left me hopeful, just as Gail predicted. Dinner was fraught with tension, exacerbated by John's request for me to remove my wedding rings. Tom noticed, his silence laden with accusation. If looks could kill, I would have perished alongside John. I lost track of Tom after dinner, while John escorted me to our bedroom. We shared a few moments of intimacy before he expressed a desire for a swim before bed. Hand in hand, we made our way to the pool, where I spotted Tom observing Jackie's figure. Despite my envy, I approached Tom, resting my head on his shoulder. I love you, Tom. Everything will be fine. We'll talk when we're home. My heart sank when Tom's retort echoed loudly, "Go to hell." John hurriedly led me back to our room, noting the tear in my eye. "It'll be okay, darling. Trust me. We've come this far, let's embrace the weekend we've always dreamed of." His kiss reassured me, momentarily overshadowing my apprehensions about Tom. His touch was electrifying as he undressed me, laying bare my vulnerability. "You're so beautiful," he murmured. "I've loved you for so long, and now I finally have you." John initiated our lovemaking with a kiss before undressing. As my eyes traced his form, I admired his physique, different from Tom's, but equally appealing. My gaze lingered on his erect member. While not as sizable as Tom's, my desire for him eclipsed any comparison. Lowering me onto the bed, John's hands explored my body, finding my eager core. "I know we have all weekend, but I need you now," he whispered. I eagerly welcomed him, spreading my legs as he entered me slowly and tenderly. It didn't take long for him to climax, filling me with his warmth. Despite my disappointment at not reaching orgasm, I reassured myself that there would be ample time for pleasures throughout the weekend. After what felt like hours, John proposed a nighttime swim and lovemaking in the pool, an idea brimming with romance. Hastily donning our swimsuits, we ventured outside, hoping for privacy at such a late hour. Reaching the pool, I expressed my joy to John, confessing my love and gratitude. As I urged him to undress, Tom's voice shattered the moment. Turning, I witnessed Tom's violent outburst, delivering a blow to John's groin before disappearing into the night. Rushing to John's side, I cradled him in concern, while Larry assisted us inside. Tom's absence weighed heavily on my heart as I retreated to his vacant room, tears streaming down my face. In the morning, John found me in despair, offering comfort and apologies for the unexpected turn of events. With the others gone, he suggested we spend the day alone, offering to take me home if I wished. Though tempted to leave, I resolved to seize this final opportunity with John, casting aside thoughts of Tom. We indulged in food, drink, and attempts at lovemaking throughout the weekend. Despite John's pain from Tom's attack, our intimacy was hindered. By Saturday night, John's discomfort became evident, impeding our lovemaking. Despite my efforts, satisfaction remained elusive. Instead, I focused on pleasuring him, finding solace in his pleasure. On Sunday morning, John sported a deep bruise on his inner thigh, making me apprehensive about engaging in vigorous intercourse. Opting to pleasure him orally again, I swallowed his climax before we managed to make love after lunch. Despite his climax inside me, I still found myself unable to reach orgasm. As much as I dreaded returning home, I felt prepared. Gail had been right, the weekend provided closure with John. While I cherished him, I acknowledged that my feelings for him paled in comparison to my love for Tom. The thrill of the forbidden had fueled my excitement, but I was now ready to bid farewell to John and resume my role as Tom's wife. Upon reaching our driveway, John assisted me from the car, though it was apparent he was still recovering from Tom's blow. Embracing me, he delivered a heartfelt farewell, expressing his love and how much he would miss me. Just as I reciprocated, Tom's voice shattered the moment, issuing a warning to John. With a hasty goodbye kiss, John drove away, leaving me to face Tom alone. Retrieving my bag, I entered the living room to find Tom seated in his favorite chair, the postnuptial agreement conspicuously displayed on the coffee table. Before I could apologize, Tom demanded answers, insisting on the truth regarding my weekend with John. Admitting to our sexual encounter, I explained Gail's stipulation for Tom's presence to ensure transparency and commitment to no further contact. Tom's inquiry about Larry, the security head, and Dana, the notary, unnerved me. His line of questioning intensified, probing into the planning of the weekend, leaving me tearful and anxious. My feeble explanation of Gail's assurance fell flat, leaving me feeling foolish. Tom abruptly ended the interrogation, directing me to our room with a press of a button on his phone. With a heavy heart, I followed, knowing that my attempts to justify my actions had only brought further distress. Fine, I need some rest. Wait, what do you mean my room? You're staying in the guest room now. That's where you'll be. But no, I want to go to our bedroom with you. You really thought I'd sleep with a filthy whore like you? Well, you were wrong. What did you call me? I choked out through tears. Tom remained silent, simply taking my bag to the guest room and tossing it in. I watched as he retreated to what used to be our bedroom, noticing the new handle with a key lock. Panic set in. Oh God, I'm in trouble, I realized. I cried myself to sleep, uncertain of what would unfold next. By the time I woke up on Monday morning, Tom was already gone. Despite the turmoil at home, I had to focus on work. This week marked John's departure, and there were numerous tasks to attend to before he left. Summoning all my strength, I composed myself and headed to the office. Concentration proved elusive at work, my mind preoccupied with worry over Tom's actions and thoughts. Meetings with John and my new boss, Sylvia, felt strained. Strangely, I found myself viewing John differently, overwhelmed by regret for our weekend tryst. Our agreements allowed for necessary work-related contact this week, but I sensed John struggled to maintain boundaries. His lingering touches and whispered sentiments tested my resolve, each reminder met with a stern glare. Physically and emotionally drained, I returned home to a dark, desolate place. Home, I thought bitterly, feeling more like a stranger than a resident. Tom's absence only deepened my despair. Despite multiple attempts to reach him, my calls and texts went unanswered. Fear gnawed at me. Had he left me? Wednesday marked John's farewell at the office. I orchestrated a farewell party, even inviting his wife. As colleagues praised John's contributions and wished him well, I faded into the background, giving him space. After the festivities, I assisted John and Gail in loading their cars. Gail departed, leaving John to retrieve his final belongings from the office. In his office, John pulled me close, ignoring my protests. Shoo, no one will know. This is our last kiss, he murmured before initiating a passionate embrace. In a moment of weakness, I succumbed, knowing this might be our final encounter. Clothes were shed, desires indulged, and consequences ignored as we lost ourselves in each other one last time. John's actions were mechanical, devoid of passion, but I lacked the strength to halt his advances. His climax came swiftly, marked by a grunt of release. Hastily, I dressed and excused myself to the bathroom, attempting to cleanse myself of his presence. With trembling hands, I wiped away remnants of his ejaculate, struggling to comprehend how I had allowed this to happen. But it was nearly over now. Accompanying John to his car, we exchanged a final kiss before he departed. My heart raced as I pulled into the driveway, spotting Tom's car in the garage. Just as I switched off the engine, my phone erupted with John's call. Is he serious with this? John's voice crackled with agitation. John, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Gail and I were just served, and I spoke with the CEO. Your husband is suing the company. Is this some kind of game? John, I'll figure it out. Tom's here, I need to go. Entering the living room, I found Tom seated in his recliner, wearing a smirk. Before I could speak, my phone rang again, my mother's number flashing on the screen. Tom chuckled, You might want to take that. Mom, please slow down. Start from the beginning. After a pause, my mother's voice trembled. I received a strange email directing me to your Facebook page. There are photos of you with another man, dancing and kissing. Your status reads divorced. What's happening? Glancing at Tom, my heart sank. Mom, it's a mistake. Someone hacked my account. I'll call you back. Turning to Tom, I demanded answers. What have you done? He met my gaze with a chilling stare. A lot. And it's just the beginning. John's been served, and soon you will be too. I'm suing for alienation of affection. Your company's fraternization policy? Your meticulous filing system made it easy to find evidence. The notary, the security presence, all of it strengthens my case. Oh God, what have you done? My voice trembled as tears streamed down my face. Me? You and your lover started this, I'm just reacting. Did you really think I'd let you have your fun and we'd live happily ever after? Grow old together with you cherishing your memories of cuckolding me? Sorry to break it to you, but I don't play that way. I pleaded with him, please, Tom, I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Let me make it up to you. Tom chuckled darkly. Molly, the best part is that you and John have screwed yourselves, pun intended. I wonder if this was Gail's plan all along. Confused, I asked, what do you mean? Remember that postnup Gail had you both sign? It allowed you 2 unlimited contact, including sex, for that one weekend. But it also stated clearly that after that, there was to be no romantic contact. No kissing, no sex, nothing. And guess what? I have evidence. I gasped, realizing the gravity of the situation. Seeing you kiss him in the driveway told me he wouldn't leave without one more go. And I have proof, a photo of you 2 locking lips not 20 minutes ago. Oh, and here's another one. Tom handed me a picture of John and me on the couch. He wanted your pussy one more time, and you gave it to him. I protested, Tom, it wasn't what you think. Sure, keep telling yourself that. Here's a shot of his cum dripping from you, captured from the next building over. Impressive, isn't it? Tom's voice dripped with contempt as he revealed the damning evidence. Ever wonder if Gail had someone watching, just like I did? That kiss in the parking lot alone violates the postnup. And those pictures of you 2 on the couch? Well, that seals it. Don't you think that was Gail's plan all along? If I assumed you'd break the agreement, she must have assumed the same. I can't believe she'd say, here, sleep with my husband for the weekend and all is forgiven. Do you think she set you up? Tom's words hit me hard. Please, Tom, I made a terrible mistake. I love you. Can't we talk and work this out? What? Now you want to talk? Let's think about how this went down. You didn't involve me in your plan to sleep with John. I wasn't part of your meetings where you planned to cuckold me. You didn't give me a chance to talk you out of this. But now you want to talk? I'm sorry, I should have included you. Tom stood up, cutting me off. I'll give you the same courtesy you gave me. Here's how it's going to go. You'll be served with divorce papers soon, reflecting your violation of the postnup you graciously provided. You can stay in the house until it's final, but in the guest room. The divorce terms will match the postnup you drafted. My lawyer says if I'd written it, it'd be too harsh. But since it was your idea, or Gail's, it's enforceable. You get nothing from our marriage, no assets, no alimony, nothing. Please, Tom, I pleaded. Stop. No interruptions. I'm not done. I'm going after John, his wife, and your company. They were served today. Thanks to you, I have evidence that puts the company in my crosshairs. I'll offer them 2 options. Pay me $5 million to keep quiet about their plot to ruin my marriage, or $500,000, and they fire both you and John for morality reasons, publicly but vaguely. But Tom, that would ruin both of us, I protested. He shot me a deathly glare. Oh, right. That's what you intend to do. Now you're catching on, Molly. I've also sent your family a copy of the postnup you signed, along with a letter outlining your plan to humiliate me by sleeping with John in front of me. Oh my God, you didn't. I can't believe you thought so little of me that you'd think I'd accept a hooker. I'd never cheat on you, especially not while married. Setting me up with a hooker, does that make you a pimp and a whore? Jackie is smoking hot, by the way. Did you know she gave me her number before I left? But you said you wouldn't have sex with her, I said tearfully. No, I said I wouldn't while married. I called her yesterday about my lawsuits. We made a deal. I won't name her or call her as a witness. She promised me 3 weekends after the divorce, saying something about me not being able to walk right afterward. Oh God, Tom, please don't do this. I'm also thinking you might benefit from being fired for morality reasons. As for John and Gail, I'm going after them personally. Did you really believe I'd let you humiliate me and do nothing? I cried, searching for an answer. Tom, I don't know what I was thinking. Gail suggested the weekend. She said it'd be good to get it out of our system. She said if you loved me, you'd let me have 1 weekend. I was so stupid. We finally agree on something. You should have known that's not the man you married. I took our vows seriously. When you broke them and shoved it in my face, you killed the love I had for you. I see a horror when I look at you now. I hope your weekend was worth it. I wanted to apologize, but all that came out was tears. I called my mom to pick me up. I couldn't stay in what was my home anymore. Explaining my stupidity to my parents was tough. Their looks of disgust hurt more than their silence. I took 2 weeks vacation from work, but during the second week, I was called in for a mandatory meeting with the CEO. I assumed Tom had given them his ultimatum, and I was to be fired. After cleaning up as best I could, my father drove me to the office. He escorted me to the conference room and declared his intention to stay by my side. The CEO, accompanied by the director of HR and a woman I didn't recognize, entered the room. The CEO began, Mrs. Adams, can I call you Molly? I nodded. Molly, I believe you understand the reason for our meeting. Your husband, Mr. Adams, is suing the company for allowing an inappropriate relationship between a supervisor and his subordinate. Our preliminary investigation suggests the misuse of company resources to facilitate this inappropriate conduct. Our legal counsel has advised us to settle with your husband, who will soon be your ex-husband. However, what I'm about to discuss with you must remain strictly confidential. Your father may stay only if you both agree to uphold the confidentiality of our conversation. My father consented as a tear escaped my eye. Your husband presented 2 settlement options. Our lawyers have proposed a third, which will require your approval. Mr. Adams demanded the termination of both you and Mr. Decker or a significant monetary settlement. We've decided not to terminate you but to increase Mr. Adams' settlement to $1 million. You will be demoted from executive assistant to general secretary with no change in salary or benefits. He slid a document across the table. This agreement outlines our proposal. My father intervened. We'll have our lawyer review this and get back to you. The CEO looked concerned. Please do so promptly. We have limited time to respond to Mr. Adams' demands. My father took me directly from the office to his lawyer. I was surprised by how swiftly we found ourselves in a lawyer's office. I had been served with divorce papers the previous week but hadn't yet sought legal representation, hoping for a change of heart from Tom. After an hour's wait, David Wilbur agreed to represent me in both the divorce and employment matters. Mr. Wilbur informed us that he had reviewed the postnup, the divorce petition, and the proposed agreement with the company. Molly, we could contest the divorce, arguing that the postnup is excessively harsh. However, given that you initiated it, our chances are slim. Our best bet is to pressure Tom into reconsidering. I interjected, I want to fight. In regards to the agreement with your company, there are troubling aspects. While they aim to settle with your husband, if they terminate you, you would have grounds for sexual harassment. Furthermore, there are clauses preventing you from testifying against the company, which could harm your credibility. The primary provision prohibits you from pursuing action against the company for sexual harassment, which is their main concern. I was puzzled. But John didn't force me, I acted out of my own foolishness. The lawyer gave me a grave look. Though you may believe your actions were voluntary, the power dynamic between you and your supervisor suggests otherwise. I would recommend pursuing a different strategy, joining your husband's lawsuit on grounds of sexual harassment. While this may lead to the loss of your job, it seems inevitable at this point. After the lawyer left, my dad and I deliberated. I convinced myself that aligning with Tom's lawsuit against the company might offer a chance to repair my relationship with him and salvage our marriage. Without my consent, the company couldn't accept Tom's settlement terms. While I wasn't terminated, the workplace atmosphere turned hostile. I became a social outcast, met with silence and disdain from my colleagues. Though my parents remained supportive, their disappointment in my predicament was palpable. My attempts to reconcile with Tom faltered. He refused communication during divorce proceedings and mediation. When we petitioned for counseling, the judge granted a hearing, during which I faced harsh questioning about the post-nup and my weekend with John. Even my parents saw me as a misguided woman who prioritized selfish desires over love. Tom's lawyer posed a final question. Was the weekend worth it? Tears clouded my response. No, it was not. I wish it had never happened. Ultimately, the judge upheld the enforceability of the post-nup, granting the divorce without counseling. True to his word, Tom left me with nothing but my clothes. With nowhere else to go, I stayed with my parents, continuing to work for the company in a diminished role. Each day at the office felt like torture, marked by isolation and judgment from my peers. Despite searching for new employment, I remained until the lawsuit concluded. For months post-divorce, my lawyer informed me of a settlement agreement encompassing all lawsuits related to the weekend. To my surprise, all parties were required to convene for the signing. My lawyer suspected it was Tom's idea, perhaps as a final jab before closure. I hoped to have a conversation with Tom, as I hadn't heard from him since the divorce. Dressed carefully but cautiously, I arrived early with my lawyer. Tom and his lawyer followed suit. We exchanged polite greetings, and I asked Tom if we could speak briefly after the signing. My optimism surged when he agreed. As the CEO and his lawyer arrived, visibly displeased, the first shock came with John's entrance. His disheveled appearance, with unkempt hair and a scruffy beard, betrayed a state of ill health. Leaning over to my lawyer, I whispered, "He looks terrible. Where's Gail?" Before Mr. Wilbur could respond, Gail entered the room accompanied by her lawyer, impeccably dressed as always. To my surprise, she and John took seats on opposite sides of the table. A man in a suit entered, flanked by two assistants who distributed packets to each participant. The suited man addressed us, emphasizing the significance of the confidentiality agreement within the documents. Funds had been deposited, awaiting distribution upon signing. I half expected Tom to deliver a vindictive speech, but he remained silent as we all signed the agreements. With the paperwork notarized and collected, everyone but Tom, myself, and our lawyers departed. Tom requested a private moment once our lawyers left. "I suppose you see this as your victory," I ventured. "You couldn't be more mistaken, Molly. There are no winners here. I lost my marriage, and what I've received today is merely financial compensation for a marriage destroyed by a diabolical scheme. Money doesn't replace what I've lost, but it helps. And from your reaction to John and Gail's separate entrances, I gather you're unaware of their fate." "No, I haven't heard from either of them. Their divorce is nearing its conclusion. I was correct about Gail orchestrating John's downfall to claim their assets. The weekend was a setup from the start. Gail understood John's eagerness to fulfill his fantasy with you and manipulated the situation. She anticipated my response to your infidelity and planned accordingly, knowing I'd retaliate. Surveillance footage of your final kiss and John's wired office served as evidence, ensuring Gail's victory over John. But she didn't anticipate my countermove against her. While I can't disclose the details due to confidentiality, rest assured I'm receiving a substantial settlement from both Gail and John. I must admit, I was troubled by the idea of you profiting from joining my lawsuit. However, since the company couldn't terminate you due to your sexual harassment claim, their settlement to me was quite generous. I understand you'll be departing from the company as part of your agreement." "Yes, I dread going to work there now. I'm relieved it's finally over." Tom, is there any chance you consider giving our marriage a second chance? You mentioned how much losing our marriage affected you. Perhaps we could rebuild it. Sorry, that's not in the cards. My new girlfriend and I are getting serious. Actually, she should be here any minute to pick me up. You should say hello. Though my heart sank, I knew it was a long shot. We wrapped things up with our lawyers, and Mr. Wilbur informed me that I'd receive the settlement check in a week. While the money wouldn't drastically change my life, it would help me secure my own place and sustain me until I found another job. As we exited the building, a black Mercedes pulled up to the front door. To my surprise, a stunning redhead stepped out. Molly, you remember Jackie? I glanced at Tom, shocked. But she's a... Tom interjected, not anymore. She's left that behind. Jackie rushed over to Tom, embracing him tightly and planting a kiss on his lips. As Tom headed to the driver's seat, Jackie approached me, wrapping me in a tight hug. I'm so glad I got to see you again, Molly. I wanted to thank you for setting Big Tom free. He's transformed my life. I can't believe you gave him up for a weekend with Little John. She playfully held up her little finger. He was quite disappointing, wasn't he? With a blown kiss, Jackie retreated into the Mercedes.